Their mean
Dr. Avi,
age
I
was
just
still
have a question.
56.
Like, if you're looking which diet is healthier, wouldn't you account for all these factors like smoking, age, and so on?
Yeah, the comparison in ages was 56 in the non-vegetarians versus 58 in the vegan for me.
I was asking Avi. I wasn't asking you, retard. Sorry,
55.9 to 57.9.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's barely younger.
And now, 1 second, Avi, can you answer the question I asked? Like, wouldn't you...
Wait, one second. So yes, the vegans were older than the non-vegetarians
by 2 years on average.
Yes, that's correct. So we can go through all the line, but what you want to do, you're not going to do to convince anyone here about the problem with the adjustments, is to just handpick the ones that favor one group over the other. And what the authors...
I'm not handpicking.
Well, you actually just did.
No, I'm specifying that all the ones that are indicative of lifestyle choices that are unhealthy all lean more negative for the meat eaters.
No, they don't. You didn't mention exercise or educational level.
Exercise leans more negative for the meat eaters.
No, it does.
Yes, it does.
No.
Yes, it does.
It literally says...
Let Dr. Avi comment on this one.
So...
There's more sedentarism in the exercise in the meat eaters, and there's less vigorous, like long-term exercise. There's a point where they are more than the vegans, and that's just the 1 to 20 minute period per week. All the other categories.
I'm just not sure what the effect on over 151 minutes per week. I'm like there might be a case to make that like that too vigorous of an exercise, because some vegans go crazy.
Right. But it's true of all the categories except for 1 to 20 minutes.
No, I understand that. I'm saying, but you're not tracking what I'm saying. I'm saying the category of over 151 minutes might actually be a less healthy thing.
Right.
In other words, the issues with vegans overtraining, not consuming enough calories in relation to their training, etc. I mean, this is why you just don't assume what's healthy and not healthy, and you just run the statistics. I mean, instead of just handpicking confounders or just saying like, hey, this is the confounder, this is what's going to be healthy or not healthy. No, you just match and you run the data. Now, if you have
I can't do that though.
Well, you actually can. You actually can. You can submit a request. The data actually.
I have done that.
And wait, how did you do that? Which site did you do?
Via email.
No, that's not what. No,
they specify on their site that they do not give this data out. They only do it with collaborators.
Okay, so even if you can't, let's just say you can't do it, because I recall there being a way that you can request for this, but let's just say you can't do it. That in and of itself does not mean that the adjustment was incorrect.
I didn't say that.
Okay, wait. If the contention is that the adjustment is not incorrect, then what's the issue?
Well, no, I didn't say that just because I can't get access to it that means the adjustment's incorrect.
No. It's not that we can't. We're not going to be able to just look at these list of confounders and conclude that the adjustment's incorrect either.
Well, this is what they provide.
I understand, but it doesn't change the fact that we're not going to.
All I can do is estimate what is suggested by what they provide, and what is suggested is that the lifestyles are in the vegans.
So what you're doing is you're looking at a list of confounders, and you're speculating that because there is some amount that you think is going to be more impactful for an adjustment in one group than the other group, you are forming a speculation that if you were to adjust for this properly, that you would expect an even worse outcome for the vegans. But in fact, it is very easily the case that you were wrong on that, and then when you did the adjustment, it's in the other direction, because other factors may have been either that you thought were beneficial or actually detrimental, or certain factors that you underestimated were actually more impactful. And you simply providing that speculation is going to take a sharp epistemic shit back seat, a shit stain of an epistemic point to what the actual reported adjustment values are going to be. Is that your case, that the adjustment was improper? Really?
My case is that the confounding variables, which I have known to have the larger impact sizes on health outcome long term,
Wait, how do you
all
know?
leaned more negative.
Wait,
By the way, Avi, this retard claims to be like a PhD in nutrition. Like
I did not claim that. I wish you would stop saying that.
Aren't you a
wait,
PhD
wait.
student? Didn't you say that? Sorry. Didn't you flex earlier by being a PhD student in
I
nutrition?
said I'm finishing my PhD in nutrition and metabolism.
How is that? How is that different from saying you're a PhD student in
Because
nutrition?
I don't have it yet.
No, I never said you. I said you're a PhD.
You said I
student in
claim to be a
nutrition.
PhD in this.
No, I said you claim to be a PhD student.
No, you didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. I just said you're doing a. Sorry, I just said you're a student in PhD and you claim to have expertise in nutrition and statistics. And my hypothesis was that you're probably, because when I asked you about modality, you just want like full. You
Oh
just
my
like froze
god,
up.
I don't care
But my
about the modality
hypothesis was
question.
like you actually don't know any statistics, you don't know anything, and you just got by and you're like stats courses. And when I invited
All right,
Dr.
if
Avi, he
this
was like
guy's
actually
allowed to
really
be
good
part
at
of this
statistics. You're just
conversation, I'm
gonna
done
get
now.
like owned,
So
like the retard that you are. And that's what's like happening right now. Anyways, continue the discussion.
Hey, Venus, chill, bro, chill.
So a couple of things. So first off, there's so many reasons of what the inference you're making here is just. It's not just like bad. It's just incredibly garbage, and it would be laughed out of any like.
Why?
I'll tell you. So the first reason is that it relies on the assumption that your intuitions about both the magnitude, both the effect size, and the direction of the effect of these various confounders are on net going to be in a given direction. And there's really no basis for doing that by looking at this. For example, one example would be the total fiber consumption. Now, you might think that benefits the vegans. But in fact, when we actually, there's data that's coming out that shows that this may actually not benefit the vegans. That may actually be a detriment. Vegans overconsume fiber. It was 46.7 compared to 30.4.
Wait, so are you disagreeing that an increased rate of smoking or drinking and less exercise in a population wouldn't be indicative of them living a less healthy lifestyle?
It would be pro tanto indicative, but not on the net.
Right,
Do you
it
know what that
suggests a less healthy lifestyle.
No,
right?
it suggests that's a pro tanto contributing factor for a less healthy lifestyle. It does not mean they live a less healthy lifestyle on the net. It's a factor. It doesn't mean you can have a population that has somewhat of a higher proportion of smokers and somewhat of a higher proportion of more sedentary individuals that on the net live a more healthy lifestyle than the other population.
So all I'm doing is I'm trying to take the amount of data I have available to me to understand how they possibly could have reflected it in the opposite direction.
I'm giving you I'm giving it because what you're doing here at best is you're saying, that's a little weird.
Right.
It's not like that. Yeah, that's a little weird because I would have expected the smoking and the exercise to have a higher degree of magnitude of effect and a given direction. And what I'm telling you is that actually that doesn't follow for a number of reasons, because we don't really have any good data that that difference in proportion of smoking and exercise is going to outweigh the difference in the other variables.
That's true. We don't have that.
Okay, but then that's the death of your argument that the adjustment was improper.
Well, no, this is only the start of my argument. There's a lot of issues with this publication.
No, wait. That's the death of whatever you've proposed to me just now as the problem with the adjustment.
It's the collection of all the issues.
Okay, it's the death of the first issue you mentioned.
Okay, before I continue on to other issues, would you accept that there's a certain point where when you find enough fishy issues with a publication, that the collection of all of those is suspect just of its own?
It depends how suspect the issues you're pointing out is. If the issues are the type of issues you just mentioned to me right now, then absolutely not. You could point out 100 issues to me like this because the epistemic, quite frankly, the epistemic import to any rational agent who's published papers like this.
How well do you know this study, Avi?
How long do I know this study?
No, how well do you know it?
I've known it since I've been vegan 5 years ago. I'm pretty familiar.
How do they calculate calorie intake?
Okay, off the top of I don't know every detail of the methodology of calorie intake, but what's the relevance? Wait, hold on.
What do you think would be?
Stop. What is
Meta, shut the fuck up. Let him answer. Go ahead, Avi.
Is that going to be relevant? Before I answer it, is that going to be relevant to me pointing out the issue with what you just proposed in terms of just this general method of looking at confounders and trying to get some intuition about which the effect size and magnitude of what the adjustment's going to expect to be?
No, we can move on from the confounding variables. Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I can tell you from looking at many papers, that shit doesn't work. Like that happens all the time. Like where I can look at a paper and look at I can look at a paper and I can look at the confounding variables and I can be like, oh, I totally expect the effect size and magnitude to go in this direction, and it totally goes in the other direction. Like that happens all the time.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it doesn't. It's just so when you look at the confidence intervals, I think you get a suggestion for why.
With these same variables, by the way.
Yes. So if you look at the confidence intervals for these same hazard ratios, I think it kind of you get a sense for why it went in the opposite direction. Possibly, I think the effect size was so incredibly small that there's almost nothing where the confidence interval doesn't cross over 1.
Wait. So the effect size of the confounders, you're saying, or the effect size of the dietary intervention?
Maybe both.
Yeah, I think that's not even completely. That's not even completely. Well, first of all, there isn't actually a. The claim that none of the effect size crossed over 1 is not true.
Well, I didn't say none. I said almost all of it.
Almost all, yeah. No. Pesca vegetarian was statistically significantly superior to non-vegetarian.
Yeah.
In all-cause mortality. Now, in terms of effect size, overall, anyone looking at this is going to be like, okay, not all of them are statistically significant, but if you were a betting person, like you'd be foolish to bet on the non-vegetarian group here. I mean, just looking at the numbers.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't bet on a non-vegetarian group either. I do think non-vegetarians are probably a little bit less healthy, but the fact that out of a sample size of like almost 100,000 people, the effect size
He's
is
changing
still
his
very
position,
small.
by the way, now. He was saying the opposite earlier. He was saying like the non-veg are actually healthier given the raw data.
Okay, so continuing on to other issues I have with it.
Wait, hold on. But a small effect size in terms of diets, like for all-cause mortality, if you're talking about like an effect size of like on a hazard ratio of like 0.15 or 0.1 or something like that, that's actually around the magnitude I would expect for dietary interventions.
Sorry, Avi, I don't mean to cut you up, but I just want to be clear that he's like retconning his position. Does anybody here other than me do you remember when he said that like the raw data shows that like red meat eaters are actually healthier than the vegans?
Yeah, he said that.
Yes,
Yeah,
that was
the
his
raw
initial
data.
position, Avi. Don't let him like retcon you.
I said that of the raw data. Yes.
Yeah, so does the raw data show that, Avi?
Does the raw data show what? That the meat eaters are
Red meat eaters are healthier than the vegans?
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. What the raw data shows is that on the outcome of all-cause mortality, there were less events in proportionality. That doesn't mean they were healthier.
Which was my
Right,
claim.
so
about the raw data.
that's an important thing because I was bringing that as well. I was saying once you account for like
Oh my
smoking
God.
and other things, does it still show that the red meaters are like healthier? And I assume not, right?
I understand. Yeah, so I understand. No. The adjusted, I think we can all agree on the adjusted data. No one would bet on the red.
Wait. So am I correct to assume that like what Meta R-word did was like he just took the raw data and didn't account for like smoking or age or anything, and then he just took like some kind of like a simple division and he just gave that number to say like the red meters are healthier.
He did something worse than that. He contested.
Oh, okay, I see.
He also contested the adjustment by saying, "Well, I'm going to look over the baseline characteristics, and because I see some of them are higher in what I expect the direction and magnitude of effect to go, I'm going to speculate that the adjusted values, the outcome is going to go in favor of the vegans." Against the vegans and in favor of non-vegetarians even more. And the fact
did he do that based on like anything scientific, or would you say that was like an intuition that he had?
No, it's his intuition.
Okay. So just to be clear, it's like suppose PhD at nutrition not only doesn't understand how to account for data, but he also takes like his aimings to be justificatory to carry out quantitative analysis. So just to be clear, anybody here should learn from this lesson that anybody who claims here's a rule for everybody to remember: anybody who claims to be a PhD mid-debate is usually really bad at the thing that he's doing.
Well, just as a point, I don't I take arguments to stand on their own 2 feet, not on their credentials or claim thereof, and I don't know why. Like, I don't appeal to the fact that I'm a doctor in debate.
No. What I'm saying is like when you debate, you never appeal to you being a doctor. What I'm saying is like if anybody mid-debate appeals to their credential, they're usually bad at the thing that they're doing.
It should also be noted that I'm not the degree that
And
I've
his field is not usually to be an expert statistician. It's like something that Avi has learned on his like own time.
Usually Avi like shoots himself in the foot. He'll be like, "Oh yeah, I technically am a doctor, but like not that kind of doctor."
Yeah.
The only thing Avi has shot his foot. The only thing that Avi has shot himself in is like trying to like sexualize every girl that joins the Ask Yourself server, but it's like a different topic.
Hey,
That's shade, bro. That's shade.
bro. First of all, it's not every; it's only half. Okay, so that's one.
That's correct. Yeah. It's only the hot ones. It's not the fat ones. Correct.
I mean,
Oh my god.
no, it's the fat ones too. Okay, let's be real.
Yeah, people can be hot. Don't discriminate.
I don't just. I'm not discriminatory. Okay, and also it's like
Avi isn't discriminatory, but
Wait,
every
you
girl
hit
he
it
like
too?
posts looks like a model.
I'm calling
Wait,
cap on
let's
that, bro.
continue the chat.
he's accusing me of fat phobia now. This is not fair. Okay, look.
No, I don't think. No, but do you think that like if you don't want to fuck any fat person, you're fat phobic?
Yeah, 100%. No
I
doubt.
think-
man.
I
I'm
think-
kidding.
Venus, I think
Oh my god.
your dick is fat phobic.
Yeah, but do you think
Can we continue this
Dick
or
is
not?
fat phobic? You are fat phobic, though. Do you think this is an
No.
entailment?
But you're accusing my dick of being fat phobic.
No, what I'm accusing your dick of is like targeting the non-fat persons in the Ask Yourself server. Not that you're like fat phobic.
What's
You
the
as
evidence?
Avi, the person.
What's the evidence for that? What's the evidence that I disproportionately targeted the non-fat?
Because every single picture you post of a girl in your background is like really thin, like usually like very worked out.
What do you mean?
When have you ever posted like a picture of you and a fat girl?
Okay, this isn't about
Yeah.
the same
I rarely
conversation.
ever post pictures of being girls. Like, but yeah, I'm sure I have.
Yeah,
Doesn't
of
Avi
the
do, like,
girls. Sorry,
workout
Avi,
coaching
of the
as
girls
well?
you posted, have you ever posted like a picture where you had like a fat girl in the background?
Yeah.
When?
I mean, in one of my relationships, I was in a relationship.
Sorry,
with her.
Mary Jane is like an account. Have you ever seen Avi post like a fat girl in the background, or like hugging him, or like joining the mic when he's like on
I had a
cam?
relationship with a fat girl. What are you talking about?
When?
When? This was 2018.
Did you ever like post her or like take her on cam?
Not now. We're not in a relationship anymore.
No, back in 2018, obviously.
Of course, I would post. Yes,
Well, I don't have that data, so that's so you have to account for like I'm just going off like the things that I know.
Oh,
It's like an epistemic probability. It's not like.
Yeah.
So now we got to get you to update your priors on.
But who can account for this though? Like name me one person who can account that you actually did this though.
I might know one.
I can. I mean, if you want to, if it really means that much to you, I can dig up the pictures.
Nah, it doesn't mean that much. I'm just messing with you.
All right.
I
So
think you did a good job against this like.
The guy left, by the way.
The guy
It's
left.
like
Like, you guys
retard,
fucking.
he left. Wait, over that? Wait,
Yeah.
wait. That's what made him leave. Really?
Yes, you.
I just
Yeah,
wanted
I
to
guess
clear that,
started
like,
talking about fucking fat chicks. Like,
I
Hey,
just want to be clear, like
we can
whenever
think of
somebody like mentions
Fine.
like
Wait, hold on.
statistics or quantities, I always refer to Dr. Avi. So like
He was fine with that, with sitting into a room and with a straight face saying that the
no, I don't think no. Avi, what I take it is like he used this as an excuse to escape. I don't think this is
Oh,
the
I
reason.
Yeah.
I think he was
Yeah.
looking for an escape, and he found an escape in this.
Yeah.
Like we
I
could
don't know
just
why
like
you
not
thought
do
you
that
were giving
stuff.
him one.
I think he's
Like,
just
it's
sick
not
of
doing
hearing the word, like the R word, and then you guys degrading like.
But
fat people.
Avi,
It's
could you
just-
Oh, he's back.
elaborate in like?
Hey, sorry, he's back. Just
Of the
I told him if he comes back, I'll get it back on track. So just
that's
keep
fine.
it on.
But like Avi, could you just like summarize in like
No.
lay term language, like the mistakes that he made?
Oh yeah, I mean the big issue so far. I mean the big issue is he used intuition as a means of looking at the baseline characteristics and predicting where
Could you just explain what baseline characteristic is? Because
I'm just going to have people direct you to summarize how I'm wrong, or are we going to continue to discuss this?
Well, I'm going to answer if Ina's asking me a question about how you're wrong. No, it's I
This
think
isn't a conversation between me and him. This is a conversation between me and you.
well, actually, I just came here because
Wait,
I
Avi, continue discussion with him. Just keep owning him, and then we can like summarize after he runs away indefinitely.
okay. So then, so the first thing. Okay, so So what I came in, I understand the point of contention was that there was an adjustment problem in the study, and the reason we can know there's an adjustment problem in the study, or the reason we can infer that, is because of our intuitions of the baseline characteristics. And I pointed out that's absolute nonsense. This happens all the time. It's never been shown to be a reliable method to just eyeball the characteristics, make a prediction about the direct effect size and magnitude of where the all-cause mortality will go. That's never been validated as a method that you can do. So no, that doesn't give us a reason to believe that the adjustments was incorrect. We agree?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Now, is there another point of contention? Is there
If you were
another?
to do this study, how would you measure calorie intake?
Okay, that's not an answer to my question. I'm trying to find out right now if there is.
I'm trying to go into that.
Okay,
He's saying I take LL on this issue, but I'm trying to bring up an entirely different issues. That's what he's saying.
all right, but I just want to know what. So if he's saying that there are issues with the study, that's not going to be a point of contention. We both agree there's issues with all sorts of studies. This is no exception.
No. What
Wait,
his
so are we
position
not going to
was.
discuss the issues with the
Sorry,
study?
what his position was that the study actually shows that the non-vegan, actually not non-vegan, non-pescatarian diet is healthier than the vegan diet. From the raw data, you could show this. That was his
We already
initial
went
position.
through that. Yeah, but we went through that already. He's saying he's taking the L on that because of the adjustment.
Yeah, then he's conceded on the initial thing that I invited you for.
Yes,
taking the
that's
L.
what happened.
Now he's trying to challenge you on a completely different issues. It's going for
Yeah, that's
round
what's
2.
happening. Yes.
If you ever played Tekken, Avi, he won the first round. He's challenging you to a second round now.
No, I understand. I understand what he's doing, but instead of just saying there's an issue with the study, because if the proposition, what I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to get the proposition on the table, because that's what I always do when someone says, "Hey, you want to debate me on something?" I ask for.
No, I agree, but if he concedes on that, would you take him on the calorie issue as well?
I don't know. Well, no, I might agree with him on the calorie issue. I might say,
all right, okay, that's
hey,
fine.
I might say,
Yeah,
hey,
so-
this is the limitation of the study. The way
Meta R word. Do you concede that you were an R word on the first issue?
So, in order for me to continue this conversation, I'm going to need him muted.
Sorry, am I doing anything wrong up?
Yes. If this doesn't happen, I'm just going to leave the server. I'm sorry. I cannot take this guy.
Well, he just asked you a question about if you're conceding on this issue.
We've already answered this multiple times now.
Oh well, he's muted. Well, he invited me to this room. I don't know why he's muted.
Oh, right.
Yeah, unmute him. So
regarding calorie intake.
Wait. I just want to know what the proposition you're trying to argue for is. Again, so anytime there's a new issue, I'm just going to ask you what the proposition you're trying to argue for is.
Well, I was hoping to arrive there just by a back and forth, but I can just go straight to answer first if you want.
Yes. What are you trying? What's the case you're trying to make?
The answer first approach would be that the questionnaire is very, very problematically designed in order to quantify any of this.
Yes. Okay. So I agree. So you're talking about food frequency questionnaires?
Well, it's not just food frequency. They supposedly measured calorie intake, but the only way they could have done that is by estimating from these food frequencies, which is no way to do that.
Well, it gives you some error margin. It's not that it's no way to do that. It's that it comes with a limitation of it's going to come with some limitation of a given error margin from one group to the next.
Right, but the problem with that assumption is that when you look at the validation paper that they had for that questionnaire, they stated their main assumption was that they assumed the margin of error between groups was exactly the same.
Well, you're going to do that. That's going to be the principle of indifference. I mean, you're still ultimately it's just going to be a limitation of margin of error either way.
But they said that they're assuming the margin of error is the same.
Of course. I mean, why would you assume the margin of error is going to be? Wait, the margin of error between you're talking about. Just to be clear on what you're saying, you're assuming that they said are you saying that they assume the margin of error between vegan, lacto-vegetarian, pesca-vegetarian, semi-vegetarian, non-vegetarian is going to be the same between those groups? Is that what they assume?
Yes.
Yeah. You're gonna. Yeah. If there's no reason, if there's not going to be a reason to believe the margin of error is going to be different between those two groups, yes, you would assume that they're the same.
I think there's very good reasons to believe the margin of error would be different.
Okay, well then, in that case, for calories, you're saying.
Well, for nutrients as well, but calories is the most important focus for me for this at least.
Okay, so you're gonna say the margin of error is going to be different, And so just to be clear, so if that criticism goes through, then what we would expect is that we would expect that the confidence intervals to increase or something like that.
Possibly, unless they didn't adjust for that appropriately, which they said they didn't.
Okay, so then what's the difference in? So let's just say if they're not adjusting for that. Because ultimately, what I'm trying to understand is, like, let's say you're correct before we even get to if you're correct. Let's say
it sounds like you already agree with me that the questionnaire is problematic generally.
No, I understand it's problematic, but that doesn't mean that you can't form like inferences based on problem. Like, look, there's plenty of like observational data that is problematic that you can still form inferences and that are validated against trial outcomes. So it's not that me saying that it's problematic means you could just hand wave the study away. There's limitations on all sorts of studies, including this one. Look, I can give you an entire list of ways I could improve this study. I wouldn't have 2 endpoints. I wouldn't have 2 follow-up times. I would have had repeated measures. I would have had dietary recalls instead of food frequency questionnaires. I mean, we can go through all of that. Yes, if the contention is there's limitations, I'm going to agree with you that there's limitations. But that doesn't. But what's a weird thing that happens here is people point out these limitations, and then it's this weird means of saying, well, I get to just hand wave the study away. Well, no, you don't. In spite of the limitations, we can still apply things like the principle of indifference. We can still apply things like, okay, well, this is the best available data on hand, and if there's better data, we may update. But all things considered, we can, all these critiques are arguments of increase in uncertainty. But this is where the needle points at this point in time. That's all.
What about the study that they made this whole study as a response to from the UK?
You mean the Epic Oxford cohort?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, that's a completely different population, and with a completely different. I mean, the Epic Oxford cohort there's a lot of good background data about the differences between the Epic Oxford cohort and the 7-day Adventist cohort for a number of different things.
Right.
You can go through them if you want, but I'm trying to understand what about it is that you're asking, because when you say what about it, like what's the
so my contention with all the things you're saying here is that you're saying, oh, well, you can't hand wave the study away. And I'm not necessarily saying, oh, the study is completely useless. I'm saying the final summaries of the study are a little too bold, in my opinion, especially when there are other studies like the Epic Oxford that show no difference between these diet groups. And when you look at the results of the study that we're looking at here in the first place, it also seems like they also found there's really very little to no difference at all between these groups. It's just they kind of exaggerated the results a bit.
Well, I don't place much value in the narrative comments of the conclusions of any study, to be honest with you. I just look at the methodology and the results. So I don't think
most people read the summary. They can't understand it.
I haven't done that in this conversation. I'm just giving you my takeaway based on the methodology and what the authors did and the results that they got. And that's what I don't think I've exaggerated any of this.
Yeah, I don't think you have. My main reason for coming on the server is Jensen invited me here to discuss this publication with other people because he found me talking about it on another server. And so far, the people on this server have generally been basing their opinions off the summary results, not necessarily the data as much.
Look, I mean,
I'm not accusing you of that, though.
Well, I'm just telling you what my takeaway is that this study. I mean, look, it is, by all accounts, probably a superior study to the Epic Oxford study. If we're trying to answer the question at hand, and we can go through why that is. Are there limitations of the study? Absolutely. It's as with many observational studies. Does that mean it has no epistemic import? Absolutely not. What is that epistemic import? The epistemic import is probably that that a vegetarian or vegan diet or pesca-vegetarian diet is going to be somewhat more healthy in terms of by measurement of the all-cause mortality outcome and various other outcomes, not just all-cause mortality. But for the all-cause mortality outcome is probably going to be a small effect size that is in the beneficial direction, and that's going to be somewhere around the order of magnitude of, on a hazard ratio scale of 0.15, 0.1, something around those lines with some uncertainty there. There are other outcomes as well that have a higher magnitude of effect size, but those are not as hard endpoints as all-cause mortality. That would be my takeaway from that study. Now, as far as the Epic Oxford cohort, there's a number of difference in the Epic Oxford cohort. The vegans in the Epic Oxford cohort were different in several ways. Their intake of various nutrients were far lower than the intake of nutrients in the 7-day Adventists. For example, if you look at their protein intake, Epic Oxford cohort protein intake was garbage compared to the protein intake in the 7-day Adventist cohort. the calcium intake was hilarious. I think they like Epic Oxford, which is like crazy. Like, and unsurprisingly, they had all these fractures. And we can just go on and on with like what they were like. They had a shit like is if all for any like week diet of a shit vegan diet we can imagine. Like, yeah, I mean, this is a shit vegan diet, the Epic Oxford card. And by the way, that's not really surprising because there's also background data indicating that the reasons people in the Epic Oxford cohort, more broadly in the UK, go vegan are more for moral reasons and not for health reasons. And so they end up really just going vegan and doing a shitty vegan diet. Like the meme of the potato chips and Oreo cookie vegan or whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, if I'm comparing the two studies for who was grouped into the vegan group, I would say they were both problematic, but I would agree that the AHS2 is probably a little bit better than the Oxford one.
Yeah, but also, so that, I mean, that's just the methodology. I'm just talking about the difference in the population. So like the study may not, in and of itself, may not be, irrespective of the methodological issues of the study itself, the populations that are being studied, you're effectively just studying two different types of vegans.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. And I don't mean that as in like they're different types of vegans because they're like one is from this country, one is from the other country. I mean like they have radically different vegan diets.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean I would I mean, and so I'm not surprised with like an Epic, like the type of vegan diet that they had an Epic Oxford study, why you don't really see much of a difference. I wouldn't really expect. I mean, that looks like a diet I would expect to be on par with a meat eater diet in terms of outcomes.
Yeah, and I mean, like one of the things that I thought was weird about the vegan group and the AHS one was they include vegans as some people that eat some meat, which was a bit odd.
Yeah, but to be fair, that was so I don't know how. Okay, when you say they include people that eat some meat, it's the technical way of phrasing it is that they could have eaten meat based on their inclusion criteria. It's just at a low frequency. I don't know if any people who they classified as meat actually did eat meat toward that frequency. It was just a lower end cutoff of frequency that met their inclusion criteria for that category. But either way,
I just would expect the cutoff to be lower than 3 grams a day.
Well, no one eats 3 grams. No one eats anything in 3 grams. I mean, well, no one eats any meat. I don't know anyone who eats meat in 3 portions of 3 grams per day. It's more like
the way it's mentioned though is because they had a frequency cutoff of less than once a month. So what that amounts to is about a 1 pound ribeye once a month.
Yeah. So what they're proxying is like, hey, if you eat these less than once a month, we're going to make some construct. Yeah. So ultimately, what they're doing, I mean, look, would I have done it differently? Sure. Are they ultimately proxying a construct which is tracking something like vegan, lacto-vegetarian, pesco-vegetarian, semi-vegetarian, non-vegetarian? Yes. Should have been. Now, do we know how much that affected things? No, because we don't know how many, of those who are under a month were, they could have all been like once a year or something. They could have all been like 0.
That's true.
So it's not. So I'd caution you against saying they included people who ate meat. You don't actually know that. The people they just included, they could have included people who ate meat, is the way you want to go.
Well, I think if they set a metric for a cutoff that can include, I think they can only assume that they would have if they were there.
No.
Why does he make that inference?
You shouldn't assume that. It doesn't mean that they're not, especially because, and also there's a number of problems with that assumption. You also don't know that.
Wait, can you restate my assumption back to me again?
Your assumption is that they are making a cutoff that can include people that eat meat. It would include people that ate meat.
No, that's not what I said.
And can you repeat it?
I said if they had a cutoff for people that would eat meat, they would include those people if they met the criteria.
Oh, yes. So that I agree if they met the criteria, but that's different from what you said earlier, which is that...
That is the tautology of it?
Yes, yeah, it is. It's trivially true. But... I'm not going to disagree with the tautology, of course.
Well, but the problem with setting that metric then is that if they do that, why wouldn't they just set it to 0 if they wanted to exclude it?
Wait. Okay, so I agree with you that's a limitation. I know that's the one thing that stood out to me as well. However, that's not the same thing you just said earlier. What you just said earlier was that they included people as vegan who ate meat. That's a different claim. You don't actually know that. I agree with you that it's a limitation to include people that can eat meat as long as they're eating meat less than once a month. Agreed. if they couldn't do that, could do that if they met inclusion criteria. What you said earlier was not that. What you said earlier was that they did include people who ate meat. You don't actually.
Yeah, I think I more meant is in like the inclusion criteria.
No, you didn't. Well, you weren't clear about that. Like you fucking R word.
All right, look.
Initially, you said like there was meat eaters included.
Right. So Avi, it
This
sounds
guy's like bullshitting.
it sounds
This guy's like bullshitting. I can't stand for that. I'm sorry.
So-
He initially said meat eaters were included, and now he's saying like a hypothetical claim that like if there are meat eaters that meet these conditions right here,
all right.
then trivially they will be included. But that's not the case. That's not what he initially said.
No, I know.
And
It's not
Avi,
what he didn't
Avi's being too nice. Avi's being too nice to him. You should drum him more, Avi.
I know that's not what he initially said. Look, the easy way out.
You agree he was being dishonest.
Well, I agree that reframing the attempt was like, oh, maybe I wasn't clear. I'm like,
Oh, and he left.
okay. Well, I mean, come on.
Wait, Avi, do you think I was being unfair?
No, I don't think you were being unfair because that was a little Weasley of what he did.
No, he's like that from the get-go. He like tries to seem like he has like serious concerns, but it's like obfuscated.
Well, you know, the sad thing is this guy claims to be an expert in this subject. That's the sad thing.
Well, I don't. Just so you know, there's people with PhDs in nutrition that are absolute nut jobs. Like,
No,
Yeah.
but no, that's so. It's not the thing. The thing is, like, I know there's like it's just like philosophy. There's like PhDs in philosophy, like perspective philosophy. Who doesn't even know the elementaries of like logic. What I'm saying is like this guy appealed to his nutrition PhD as being an expert in interpreting these studies, and my initial reaction was like he's probably like a PP of statistics, but given that I've never taken like a statistics course or anything, I thought it'd be like more efficient to invite you here rather than try to deal with him myself, and that's why I invited you.
I gotcha. Okay. Well, good conversation, I guess.
Could you just like summarize what he got wrong in a way that like even like our words could understand?
So when we adjust, what we're trying to do is we're trying to answer a question when we're adjusting for potential confounders. We're saying that okay, the populations we're comparing are different in some way, and what we're going to do a statistical procedure to try and answer the question of if they weren't different, what would this outcome be? That's the question we're answering when we're trying to do an adjustment. Now, what he did was he said there's a problem with the adjustment. And what was the problem with the adjustment? He didn't say what the problem was. He just said, well, I don't know what the problem is, but my inference that there is a problem is that based on my intuitions, if we were to run this analysis, it would go in the opposite direction because of how I'm looking at what the differences in the potential confounders are. And so because my intuition is such, and it's out of accord with what the results were, then that gives me reason to believe that the adjustment was done improperly, and that's what I favor, that the adjustment was improper. Now that's just insane. There's no validation, there's no way of looking at eyeballing baseline characteristics and just saying, well, if they did this adjustment, we know that the effect size and direction of magnitude, the effect magnitude and direction of effect is going to go in a given direction of such and such. The way you do that is just by running the numbers. That's how you do it. You don't do that. You don't do it by just eyeballing it and invoking your intuition. So, I mean, that really was. If it sounds silly, it should, because it is silly. That's literally all this guy was doing.
And he didn't even like give like a good case for like the confounders. Like actually, like his intuition was really weak for it. Like if you look at the chart, only like half of the things were favoring vegans. But like literally 3 out of the 4 things that favored vegans were in the same confounding factor, which was exercise.
And sometimes you think confounders are going to favor one group, but they don't actually favor one group because they're tied into other confounders that are actually more favorable.
So like he had to assume that every single group in every single category was equally weighted, which is just weird because like even within the same category, like 50 hours of exercise versus an hour and a half are equally weighted in terms of health outcomes in his assumption.
You'd have to assume that that he's correct on the direction of effects and the magnitude of effects of what he's suggesting, and then it's going to outweigh the other ones. But like it's just no, it's silly. I don't know why anyone serious would say that. Yeah, I don't get it. No one does. And by the way, this happens all the time. You can read papers all the time, and you could have a given intuition, and when you look at the adjusted data, oh well, that's weird. The intuition goes like my intuition is completely fucked. So yeah, I don't know why anyone serious would make that case.
I do have a question because you said you're like a little more familiar with the study. Do you have any idea on how they got the calorie data?
No, they would estimate it from the food frequency questionnaires. So you have data.
You seen the questionnaires?
I have at one point, yes. They gave like an example or something. The food frequency questionnaires, they ask about like how many times a day do you eat this category of food or this category of food, or this food or that food, and then you have like you have data based on each serving of that, how many calories it has, and then you just do the math work and you make
do they have like an assumed accuracy for the calorie data?
They did.
Yeah, they had a paper that gave a margin of error and whatnot.
Gotcha. Do you know what that was, out of curiosity?
I think it's cited in the paper.
Okay.
It is.
Well, if that's it, then you all have a very good night.
Likewise.
Thank you. Thank you.
Enjoy rizzing up the AY
Thank you
girls.
for the appearance. We appreciate it greatly.
What a guy. Wow.
Mega Knight.
I know.
By the way, thanks, Venus, because I had the same experience with him. He was absolutely cucked in the discussion, making wildly different claims and having a totally different energy. And I pointed out some of the same points Avi was talking about, but he worded it much better. And he's still just like denying and running.
I mean, no, I agree that the guy got absolutely fucked. Right? It was just like I would much prefer for like Avi to just continue asking for points and then fuck him on those points, because then. I mean, for one, the entirety of the audience like wouldn't or would be like well prepared to tackle those same points later on, right, in like further discussions. And as an addition, the guy wouldn't ever be able to bring those points up in front of any member of the audience. That's like the other thing, because like this guy could very easily come back tomorrow with like a random different argument, and like what do we do now, right? Like you could probably tackle it, I could probably tackle it, Beyond could probably tackle it. Vegan 13-year-old, I don't know about that. You know?
Let me tell you what
The point is like once he's like initially shattered, once like field of expertise, that's gonna like show that like he can't claim expertise on anything.
I don't know why people claim expertise to begin with, bro. It's like so troll. I would
never. Yeah, I would never.
It's like, bro. It's like if they want to like whip it out, it's like, bro, whip out the measuring tape. Let's go band for band, like right now. You know. But like, I don't know why people like.
I agree with you. I think
ego trip that shit.
Like it's never smart. Like my heuristic is like if anybody claims expertise in the middle of a debate, they probably don't know the issue that well.
I just think the only context of the debate where it seems okay to claim expertise is when that I've heard is when people will say like, oh yeah, this is the general consensus in this field, like this is what most people in this field think, and then it seems like mostly fine if nobody has data on it to be like,
even on that,
probably for like linguistics the most. Actually, I'm curious,
even on that, you just ask the interlocutor what data he has that like most people believe.
All right, but if it's like neither of you have data, but he still wants to make the point, it seems fine to bring up like, oh, I'm an expert in this field. This is a general consensus of all my peers, but yeah, like it's not going to be like a strong point. Like if they're trying to argue that with like strong conviction and they bring it up like that, that would be really stupid.